Okay, listen up, this is how it goes down. You listen to the best geek podcast in town. Gonna spit a few bars to let everybody know that you're tuned into the Geek Yoga Podcast Show. There's Som, the man, the myth, the nerd, with his mate there, wave to take over the world. Can't forget my man Rara, he can't do a cha-cha, but he's got all the girls ready to show off their tatas. And the man called, well, his name is Knock, who's a full-time geek from his head to his socks. These guys are crazy, people say that they're loony, just as insane as casting Batman as Clooney. So here is the show taking all the rest to task. It's now time for the Geek Yoga Podcast. Bitch.
Welcome to another episode of the Geek Yoga Podcast. I am Ra-Ra.
Som.
Wave.
And Mr. E.
Yay! And this is a little bit down the road.
Yeah.
But we figured we'd have an opportunity to watch and rewatch this thing since it was such a polarizing film.
Mm-hmm. We actually... Som had to discover a map and go dig Ra-Ra out of a little cave that he was in underneath an Irish Isle. And
he was my space bear.
it wasn't pretty.
This is not going to turn out how you think.
Ra-Ra milked a cat.
He was also nude the whole time, and I wasn't really sure how to roll with that, but I eventually just accepted it and moved on. So, I think that was best for everybody.
He made some pretty good swamp stew.
So yeah, before we get started with our actual content, just want to shout out, thank you guys for sticking with us and listening to us. We haven't had an episode on since the beginning of December, so thanks for waiting through the holidays and everything. This is our first show of 2018, so we might not be going weekly like we were in the past, but we'll still be putting out some shows. Just keep an eye on Facebook, and we'll be switching off of Podbean eventually. But we'll keep you guys posted and let you know where you can download and listen to our show in the future. But for now, get your blue milk ready, or prime your alien teat for your green milk, and get your barbecued pork ready. Cause
Is it blue milk or green milk? What do we have on Tatooine?
that was blue milk.
Okay, but the thing makes green milk.
Well, the blue milk, I think, are technically... Now, this is before Disney bought them, so that might have changed, but I think in the old canon, blue milk was from Banthas,
That makes sense.
and this was sea cow alien.
Yeah,
thing.
like we've
Has a
seen
name, but jeez.
I thought it was
It's
just
weird.
a really spent prostitute.
to my
Well, that's the thing. It was green milk when it came out of the tip, so it might be that's what unprocessed blue milk looks like. It's green.
Well, but also, I mean, I think every time we've seen blue milk, it's been on Tatooine or a similar desert world. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't remember if we saw it on, what was the world at the beginning of Rebels?
Lothal. Yeah, I can't remember if they drank it in there.
But,
You laughed, Mr. E.
They had
The thing
one.
looked tired, right? It was like spent.
One
so
too
that's
many tricks,
that's
man.
a fair assessment.
One
of
too
that.
many tricks.
It looked a little tired. But it was cool with it. It looked like it was just laying back.
yeah. Well, Luke wasn't about to force the issue.
Right. Oh, no.
I don't get it. The real thing is, though, I would totally drink it.
Would
Yeah.
you?
I'd
Like
try it.
straight from the teeth?
Yeah, why not? That's what I think. I think Luke should have said "fuck the bottle" and just gone straight from the teeth. I think you want to lean in as hard as you can into the weirdness of it.
Should have a 5-minute segment of just Mark Hamill sucking
Well,
this thing.
that's why I like
milk
that scene.
teeth.
That's why I like that
It's
scene.
probably online already.
But it's not really that weird because people do that like from goats and shit.
Yeah.
all the time.
Exactly.
So-
Well, I know a lot of people were like weirded out by that, and it was like that to me was Star Wars, and like
Well-
you're not gonna elicit a reaction. Like, think about the 70s in the cantina scene. Like, it was so fucking weird and bizarre to people that were seeing this movie for the first time in the 70s. They have all this weird shit, and throughout the trilogy, the original trilogy. But you can't really get away with wowing people like that anymore with a cantina scene. We've seen it 100
Yeah.
times. So you need something almost abrasively weird to elicit a
Well,
reaction.
also,
and him sucking fucking green unpasteurized milk from a tit is perfect.
well,
You gotta restate that.
this was supposed to
Him
be
sucking
uncomfortable.
fucking green.
Yoda, what? This was supposed to be uncomfortable. I mean, the scene wasn't made with the idea of, oh, people are going to be like, yeah, this was a great scene. No,
He's trying to show Ray like you
Yeah.
don't want to be near me. I'm this fucking disgusting grizzled piece of shit.
Yeah.
Don't be here. Leave. So yeah, I totally defend that scene. I understand why some people might not like it, but I think they're crazy.
Dude, we milk weird shit all the time.
Should we open this up with the idea that like I kind of stated, as sort of like a divisive film?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, that's true. I mean, how did you guys react to that? Like the actual divisiveness of the movie. I honestly didn't think it was going to be as divisive as it was.
Not at all.
It took two watches for me to come around, because the first time I saw it, I was like, I paid for this, and then the second time I saw it, I was like, okay.
I get it. Yeah.
So
The first time you see it, you're kind of like Rey in the throne room, where she's reaching for her lightsaber, and you think she's going to grab it because that's the expectation, and then her expectation swings right back around and nails her on the head.
Yeah.
That's the audience with this movie.
Yeah.
They think they're going to get this one thing. And that's what I love about the trailer. It was kind of like up front with what it was about. Luke says it's not going to go the way you think, and it doesn't. And Kylo's whole theme of destroy the past, which was one of the major themes of the movie. So I kind of like that. It was pretty upfront about that, but it still was able to subvert your expectations at a lot of moments.
And I think that's
No
what
thanks.
made it divisive for a lot of people, is that me going into it and just chatting with you guys about it, we were all like coming up with our own ideas about how this was going to play out. What would be cool if this happened, and what if this happened?
Because it's so much fun to speculate.
It's fun to speculate, but I also think because of Force Awakens, it left a lot of things open, which I think people, and I use this term loosely, legitimately wanted Luke's closed. Like the idea of the mysterious Snoke figure and who he was. The idea of like who potentially Rey could be because of the way Destiny follows all the characters
All the Star Wars
in the
things,
previous things. And I sort of took that as a casual Star Wars fan. I took that baggage into the first viewing.
Yeah.
And I remember walking out with my friend who's a serious Star Wars fan. He's got ties and mugs and no shit and all that kind of stuff. And we were both like, what the fuck did we just watch? You know?
Yeah, I think a lot of people get way too hung up and obsessive about mysteries like that. And I think part of it's current fandom, and part of it's the way that J.J. Abrams makes his movies with the whole mystery box
Oh my
element.
god, yeah.
So, you know, it kind of forces people to start obsessively wondering about mysteries and things that aren't really mysteries, but then inevitably they start painting this picture of a movie and a story that they're not going to get. And when they don't get that, they automatically go, oh, well, this is bad, without really seeing what's good
because it wasn't
about
their
it.
choose their own adventure version.
Right.
Well, speaks to your point a lot of times, Wave, where filmmakers make films for fans, or they make filmmakers make films for themselves, and sort of like feeding like your topic. I think is, if I'm saying this correctly, is who owns the property, the fans or the creator.
It's a different beast now that the fans are making the creation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a topic for another time.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely
But,
is.
I mean, I think it speaks to that like acutely.
Yeah.
Well, also, I mean, if you want anyone who went into this movie going, I want all of these answers, it's like you're setting yourself up. Even if there was a plan to give us said answers, they're setting themselves up for disappointment. Because one, who the hell doesn't think of Star Wars as trilogies?
Right, yeah.
Like, it's an episode.
You're expecting
It's a trilogy.
setups and payoffs.
Yeah, but here's the thing: this is part 2 of the trilogy.
Yeah.
This isn't our nice wrap it up. This isn't our nice, but
This is where you challenge the characters and where they should inevitably fail. That's
And-
another thing. I don't think people are
and set
used
up
to seeing,
more mysteries.
Yeah, I don't think people are used to seeing all your favorite heroes fail so hard.
Right.
On
Well, yeah,
screen.
well,
They're
we're
expecting
not used
this,
to seeing characters fail at all.
right, especially in the Star Wars
Like,
universe.
no, but I mean, like in general.
No, I know that. I'm just saying
Well,
specifically.
yeah. But characters just being wrong about something almost never happen.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah,
That was
Yeah.
was probably the greatest mixed expectation.
Yeah, with
What are you talking about?
Pose.
Poe's plan.
Poe's mutiny.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was completely in the wrong place, even though his heart was.
That whole
Yeah.
storyline was probably my favorite part of the whole
Yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
characters never get the chance to be wrong because most creators and writers are so worried about the audience going, what do you mean I read this chunk of the book or I invested all this time and the character was just wrong? Well, it's like, yeah, because you know what? That's what makes these characters human.
That's what makes them relatable.
Yeah.
I mean, and that whole Poe's whole thing is the deconstruction of the macho heroics.
Yeah. as Poe gets sent to his room repeatedly
And he
by his space moms.
And as a character who should inevitably take over as a leader, he needed this movie to learn his lesson, because otherwise he would always be that hotshot brash pilot and not understand like when it's okay to fight, when it's not okay to fight, and when it's good for strategy and when it's good for attack.
And it subverts this ingrained idea that the rebel is always right in his
Right.
rebellion.
Well,
That's
I mean, there's also a hard thing about in Star Wars. Star Wars has never had that guy as a lead. They've never had that super macho, like Daredevil, like James Bond or Rambo-esque. Like
Yeah.
Solo, right? He's like that.
yeah.
the closest we've come is Solo. But if you actually look at the way Han works and what he does, he's a complete fuck up.
Yeah, and Poe
He's a subversion of the trope.
Poe's got a way stronger sense of duty than
Poe thinks
Then-
he's that guy,
yeah.
but then has to realize in this movie that he's not.
Han Solo was more like Finn, where Finn is not fighting for a cause. He's fighting to save what's right in front of him. But he needs to learn that sometimes you have to pick a side. Sometimes you have to fight for a larger cause than you, instead of just continuously running or serving your selfish needs, like what Han Solo was doing in episode 4 and 5. I mean, that's the whole Canto Bight thing, is knocking that naivety right out of
So is this
Finn.
wrong? Because my sense of Solo was where everyone else was fighting for causes, he was fighting for the people that he became
No, you're
close
not,
to.
no, you're right.
So-
That's what I'm
Right.
saying. Like, they're not fighting for a cause; they're fighting for who's right in front of me, which is good. That's a good character
Finn is
trait to
fighting
have.
for Rey and Poe.
Right.
Han was fighting for Luke and Leia.
Right.
And then that's not wrong. You should have a sense of I want
Yeah.
to save my friends, but there's also a time and place where you have to pick a side. You have
Right.
to real. That's why DJ is important, because it's seductive to be politically agnostic. It's seductive.
Yeah.
I know I do it. Like, you can't. Why do anything? Because there's no good guys. There's no bad guys. Nothing's going to change. So I'm just going to do this for myself.
Right.
That's seductive. I fall into that trap all the time, and you have to actively fight against that to make a change. And that's Finn and Rose learn that. Rose kind of already had it, but Finn learns that through his interactions with DJ and on Canto Bight. But no, again, you're not wrong. Both Finn and Solo are selfish in that regard, that they're only going to protect those that are right in front of them when the time comes.
Yeah.
But they also do have this underlying, like, they don't want to be heroes, but it's almost innate in them. You know?
Well, that and even with the whole, he's never been the heroic type.
Yeah.
You know, which is one of the things that stops him from being that guy. But also, he's never been the actual rush in, kill a room full of dudes, and move on. He's never done that at any point in Star Wars. You know, if you look at some of, in my opinion at least, some of the really iconic Han Solo scenes, one thing I will always remember, and I'll say it got way funnier in the special edition, was when he's on the Death Star, and in a classic Han Solo move, he sees some stormtroopers running at him, and he decides to say fuck it, and just starts screaming and chasing them down. They turn around, run away, and he chases them into a docking bay, either with one squad in the original theatrical, or I will say this part. Special editions, I like certain parts of them better.
Certain parts of those are good, yeah.
But I like when he goes in and it's a docking bay with 200 stormtroopers and TIE fighters in there. And he has that moment of I did not think this through, I fucked up. And this goes through all the way down to Force Awakens, where you have his wonderful plan with catching those beasts, where we see him caught between two different criminal groups that he supposedly is selling them to, that paid for this. And he's like, I got a plan. Don't worry. I'll get you. He's trying to talk his way out of it, and he's failing miserably.
Yeah.
You know, Han has never been the macho guy with the plan. He's never been... He's been the guy with the handsome smile, but he's never been James Bond. He's never been, Rambo.
He's been the really lucky guy.
Yeah, and that's about it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Luke's always been a whiny runaway from a desert world.
Yeah, he's never finished anything in his life, really.
Yeah.
I mean, he's always running off, and he's always... That's why I like this representation of Luke. This was the Luke...
Yeah.
I think Luke was more badass in this movie than he's ever been.
Oh, yeah.
And people
definitely.
that are willfully not choosing not to see that, I get it, but I think they're also choosing to ignore his true character arc from the original trilogy too.
I think this goes back to how we opened this, and from my standpoint of view, I wasn't demanding anything from this film, but I think from watching the other films, I was used to things ending and then new things beginning. And this film, for me anyway, does end some things, but it ends them kind of like abruptly, or by just saying we're ending it because we're going to start something else. You know, so maybe we won't finish that out.
Are you talking about Snoke?
Well, like Snoke and I don't know.
Phasma?
Yeah, maybe Phasma and maybe a little bit of Rey.
Phasma might not
you
be
know,
bad.
and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because in the second viewing of it, I was able to see that was kind of like what they were doing. But on the first watch, I was like, well, wait, there's all these loose threads. So I'm like, you know, from my standpoint anyway, that's how I can see how people might find it divisive and not be like, you know, malicious about it. But be like, hey, there are these things you guys sold us. What about them? But
well, I think people
True. Because they're
especially
used to that.
Well, yeah, that was.
Well, they
their
also
expectation.
invented their mystery. Their
Yeah,
mystery.
with things like Snoke and Phasma, like, honestly, nobody said Phasma was anything other than the commander of the Stormtrooper army, and she had a cool armor.
Right.
Now, because of who she was as an actor, there was all these cult followers about her. She's a great actress, too, who's got bona fide action skills, so you'd think, oh, this character's got a lot to show, but she really doesn't. And her whole real thing there was just to prop Finn up. So now that she's gone, I mean, like, she doesn't really have any use, and she didn't really need use in this movie either. So I think people like built up this character that was never presented.
Also, and great, like, literally my favorite character in all of Game of Thrones, Brienne of Tarth. You know, here's the thing. Yes, I was happy, and I'll joke around about, oh, Brienne of Tarth as a stormtrooper, haha. But anyone who was expecting Brienne of Tarth as a stormtrooper, you're way off. You know, that would be like me having gone into Last Jedi, sitting down and going, I can't wait to see the Joker as a Jedi. Like,
right, because
Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, first off, yes, I get she is literally in my opinion, the most badass character in Game of Thrones. But that doesn't mean that the actress is going to be playing that same person in this movie. Now, yeah, there was some lip service to her being badass because obviously she's captain of the stormtroopers, all that. And yeah, I wanted some more of her, but we were never the people who say that we were promised with her Snoke, and I'm going to bring it up the two names here. With Captain Phasma, I'm going to bring up the name Boba Fett, and with Snoke, the Emperor.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: Boba Fett had like 3 lines between 2 movies. Never really did anything. I think he fired his blaster twice.
Fired his blaster. He shot his like wrist rope thing.
Yeah.
And
then
flew around.
No, he barely flew around.
And I mean flew
He
around
grappled.
around as in his backpack got shot and he exploded.
Did get shot. Han accidentally hit with a metal bar.
Oh, that's right. He got hit with the bar,
and it shot him up and into the Sarlacc pit.
But in defense of this notion that certain things are introduced in a manner that not necessarily promises you more, but certainly opens itself up to the potential for more.
Right, but you're saying that
he was the only bounty hunter to track them down, and he came up with a really cool plan to do it.
Did he?
Yeah. While everyone else left that Death Star, he figured out, you know what, these guys are probably pretty smart. Solo's been around. Let me try this.
Okay.
And he ends up going out with the garbage.
Okay, but does that still qualify him to... I mean,
it flushes him out as more than just set dressing, is what I'm saying.
But here's the thing. Sort of. I mean, yes, he was the one who figured out how to track them.
Right.
But that all happens off screen.
Right.
And other than that, like his legacy, because that's what this movie's all about, Last Jedi is all about legacy. So let's talk about Boba Fett's legacy as literally the most badass bounty hunter ever, who could take down anyone, can track anyone, can bring in, and all of. But here's the thing: to the point where when Star Wars Legends was at its height, and you had dozens, if not hundreds, of authors writing stories. I know of at least one. I think I've heard of a couple others though. Of how do we rescue Boba Fett so he doesn't die like a little bitch?
Well, that's the thing is that also in the same film he stands with Vader, and they have a conversation where it doesn't appear like he's kowtowing to him at all.
Okay.
Like they freeze Han, and she falls just short of making demands on Vader of being compensated for this.
Okay.
And that's another way that they're sort of presenting him as this more than just set dressing character.
Right.
He has skills, he has abilities, he has at least the presence to interact with Vader in a way that no one else has
that's
on the show, on the movie.
Yes, no one else will dare to. But for a few reasons. First off, everyone else that we see dealing with Vader that's not one of the rebels is one of Vader's troops.
Yeah.
Like, literally somebody under Vader's command.
Right.
So, nobody under his command is going to talk to him that way. And, yeah, I'm not saying that he's a worthless character or that he's just set dressing.
Right.
What I'm saying is, he's propped up as this, like, ultimate Star Wars character, as the most badass of the badass, because he said a couple lines.
Yeah, but I'm saying that those lines that he said and the presence he had in the film are significant enough for casual people to want to learn more about this character.
I understand this,
Yeah.
but I'm saying when you look at the physical actions that he takes, he's not this ultimate character. He is barely in the movies.
Yeah.
But here's he dies like a little bitch.
Yeah, he does go down.
That also brings up, the way he's done makes it so you want to know more.
Right.
But you're not promised that.
You're not promised it, and you're not given.
You don't need.
Yeah. You're not promised it. Again.
Like, you got 2 hours to tell a story.
Right.
And a lot of people get hung up on having useless backstory in the movie that doesn't need to be there. Yeah, would it have been cool to know more about Phasma? Sure. Is it pertinent to the story or the other characters? Not at all.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing with Snoke that Mystery brought up before. When we see Snoke in near the beginning of this movie, when the Dreadnought's taken out and he's talking to Hux, he's not even in the same system, but he's able to use the Force to toss him around like a rag doll.
Yeah.
Where have we ever seen that before?
Doesn't matter.
So that leads to him, as this dude is, in my mind, pretty serious with the Force.
But being serious with the Force doesn't mean shit to the story at hand.
But it does equate to, in my mind anyway, that he shouldn't go down like a Padawan.
Okay.
See what I'm saying?
Well, all right. Well,
I don't think he did go down.
Wait.
All
All right.
though.
Wait for one sec. Because with Snoke we have two different issues here.
Yeah.
So let me address one real quick, and then we'll get onto this issue, the way he died. One, the backstory, because it's the same with Phasma, all that. A large section of the fandom is saying they're like, we were promised his backstory. We want to know why, because his face is all fucked up and he's really powerful. We weren't promised shit.
Right.
And again, going back to original comparison, the Emperor shows up very briefly in Empire Strikes Back, talking to Vader about Luke Skywalker. And then Return of the Jedi shows unprecedented Force powers for that movie, the Force lightning and everything. Yeah. Shows that he is insanely strong.
We've never seen lightning up until that point, and nobody gives that shit.
And then is killed by Vader. We never get his backstory. I know the prequels came out, but the prequels came out, 20 years after Return of the Jedi? 15 to 20 years after Return of the Jedi. So I'm not counting the prequels in this. And even then, we sort of get a backstory on him. Yeah. He's really just there to drive the plot along. Prequels have their own issues. So I just want to address that real quick.
We never got anything really.
We weren't
about
promised shit, and nobody really gave a shit about.
And you didn't need it.
Yeah. Oh my God! How did he become the Emperor? Oh my God! How is he so powerful? Why is he so wrinkled?
The only reason he's there is for a looming threat.
But the thing is, they do present it as a character who's been manipulating this stuff for decades,
right?
Because he has another Death Star built,
right? And
just for this,
and you probably look at that.
You get a sense of he's more than just window dressing, and the guy who does the acting.
Right. Again, I'm not saying he's window dressing.
Yeah, but
at all, he's a very important character to those movies.
But the hinge of my complaint from the first watch is I wasn't promised these things, but I was presented with these things.
Well, I think all that stuff that
in the previous movie and earlier in the film, that it leaves it open to there's more to these people.
Well, I think
than-
all the stuff
Well,
that-
yes,
stuff
it also
that he's
leads
impor-
to there's more to the Emperor. There was more to Boba Fett.
But it's
Right.
not pertinent to, like, all that stuff that you mentioned he's important for is all stuff that's important prior to The Last Jedi or prior to The Force Awakens. When we get to the point in The Last Jedi, he is such a no prize character that nobody should be wanting more Snoke because he's Emperor 2.0. And what you're going to get with that is a stifled Kylo Ren. And if you want Kylo Ren to become a fully realized character,
Right.
he needed to make the choice to kill Snoke off.
Right.
He was a more important character than
Correct,
Snoke.
right. And that leaves the door open for Episode 9 to go in so many other directions, rather than if he didn't kill Snoke.
And who knows?
What's
we
JJ
may
left
get
to do?
Snoke
Copy-
side story movie.
Well, that's the thing. All that stuff is still important. You're right. It is important.
Yeah.
But it's not important to the movies going forward.
Or maybe
It's
we'll get a
important-
novel. We'll
it's
get a novel,
important-
The Rise of Snoke.
It's
the Rise
important
of
to the
First
back
Order.
history.
You want to jump in on that?
Can I just say that
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that Snoke died. Like
Yeah.
I did want to see I wanted to see a character progression for Snoke, but his character progression has already reached its peak by
Right.
Yeah.
the start of this movie, which is what you guys were just talking about.
Right.
All right.
And when Rey starts talking to, and I know this is all manipulated by Snoke, so it's kind of cool that this works out, but when Rey starts talking to Kylo, thank you, she starts saying, "Hey, I see you turning to the light. You will not kneel before him." As soon as she says that, I'm like, "Oh, he's gonna kill him."
Yeah. Right.
Like,
And the
there's
whole-
no fucking doubt about
Yeah,
it.
it's got to. It's got to.
Because he's a way more interesting character.
Yeah, and it's just moving forward. That's so much better for both Rey and Kylo and the First Order too, because now you can have a way more dynamic relationship between Hux and Kylo Ren.
And do I want like an ultimate flashy showdown
General
between
Hugs?
Kylo
I'm on hold for General
and-
Hugs.
Love it.
And I mean I do want to see this ultimate flashy showdown between Kylo and Snoke.
I mean,
Like,
that
want
would be cool.
the
Yeah.
battle to the death, but it's cooler in some way that he subverted all.
I also
Right.
think we
But-
got better battle out of Snoke and Rey, or out of Kylo Ren and Rey fighting the guards.
Yeah.
But again, we were presented with this idea that there would not have been this cool, flashy battle between the two of them.
No,
That he
because-
would have probably wiped the floor with Kylo.
and exactly right.
So
Which
that,
is
that's
why
the
they
thing,
couldn't have
but
done
it was
that.
presented that way, which is what, if you're going into this film like thinking those things are going to be completed for you, makes his simple dispatching kind of like a shock.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And my criticism of all this is not saying that it's a bad film or bad storytelling. I'm saying with the baggage I took in and what I understand of
Yeah.
the previous films,
Yeah.
I was hoping other things were going to happen.
You're upset-
Coming just short of expectations.
All right,
Right.
so should we?
So,
Right.
You're upset that it broke your expectations.
but at the
Yeah.
second time viewing it,
Which
I
is-
understand how this all works together
Well, should we
now.
Figure it
finish
through.
up Snoke then and move on to the point that you were making about his death,
Uh-huh.
about the way he died?
Well, I think I just covered that.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
It's all to serve this larger story of change
Yeah.
within this
Well, yeah.
franchise.
I think
and
I think that was the best way they could go, along with
I personally, I love the fact that Kylo was able to not really dupe him, because that doesn't seem to give it the gravity of what he did.
Snoke again tying back into hubris destroys you,
Yeah.
just like the old Jedi Order. Snoke, because of his hubris, completely misread Kylo's intention.
Because
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how powerful you are. You could be the most powerful person in the galaxy. You are still fallible.
Yeah.
And that's the theme of the entire movie.
Well,
Yeah.
how we deal with fuck ups and failures.
That's
Yeah.
Poe's journey. That's
Finn and Rose,
Yep. And it's also
even Luke,
Luke's
even
journey.
Luke,
Yeah, he's like,
Rey,
I have
and,
to get rid of this, but I can't get rid of it.
Luke, Rey, and Leia all fail.
So, all right. Should we stick with the Force for our next piece of controversy that happened and go with Leia?
Yeah, might as well.
Hey, gotta talk about it.
Spacewalk.
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 Yeah.
Spacewalk.
Listen, okay. I'm cool with it.
Uh-huh.
I will agree. The execution felt weird.
It was a little silly.
It felt weird.
It's very dramatic. But
Very
I found
dramatic.
precedence. By the way, I found precedence in
Yeah.
current canon.
Yeah.
In something that's considered current canon, I found precedence.
Like, I'm okay with the actual science behind
Yeah.
it. Like, physically,
Yeah.
it's possible. I don't care about that.
Also, I found precedence for a Force user without a spacesuit to be in the vacuum of space and fight. Like
Coon.
Plo
Fight.
Koon, Episode 1 of the Clone Wars, tells the clone troopers in the
Yeah.
escape pod Or sorry, not episode 1. It was episode 2. That's
Whatever.
right. Episode 1 was Yoda try fighting off the droid army. Anyways, Plo Koon says that he can survive for a limited time in space, and he does some pretty badass stuff there. And now, yes, Leia is not a trained Jedi, obviously, but the fact that she doesn't have training doesn't mean that she can't use the Force.
Well, the Force Awakens,
Yeah,
you know,
Rey can
solidifies
just
that
suddenly
shit.
fucking use
Oh,
it.
yeah.
She fucking uses it against Kylo, who's had some training from Luke.
Yeah.
So it's like, but the caveat to that point is, for a casual viewer like myself, who hasn't seen Rebels or read any of the books or any of that stuff, that seemed like my take of the Force from the prequels on is always that it's been like a tool.
That was why
You know?
I love this movie. Because
No-
it takes the Force and it goes, everyone that thinks the Force is only a blunt instrument, fucking forget it, because it's not true.
But see, that's how it was presented in my mind through the previous movies, like Yoda
Well,
saying that
you're not wrong, because everyone always
Yeah.
uses it as this blunt instrument.
Right.
Pushing things, pulling things towards you.
Well, even just as a sense of communication, you know, across the galaxy,
Mhm.
never did I see it as like this, like atom bomb, all-powerful force. But I think that kind of leads it into that, because if you have knowledge of the Force, even cursory knowledge, you can do some off-the-wall divine shit.
Well, especially
Well-
in an instinctual moment of
Yeah.
survival.
Yeah, like that was the big thing with Leia. If she tried to do that, if she was tried to do what Plo Koon did and was standing in the airlock, was like, all right, open the thing, I'm gonna go out and fight without a suit, she
Right.
would die.
Right.
No questions
Right,
about it.
Right, it's the
Um,
way it really unfolds.
But in the movies themselves, they've had several mentions though of it. It's just they're usually laughed at by other characters. The biggest one I can think of is in Star Wars: A New Hope, when Vader's in the Imperial conference room and says that the Death Star is nothing compared to the power of the Force.
right.
And General Mott, I want to say it was General Mott, Mati,
Yeah.
Marty, yeah.
Madi laughs at him,
Uh-huh.
and about his superstitions and all that.
Right.
And that's where we have the whole
Yeah.
Vader starts choking him, and
Yeah.
Tarkin has to tell him to let him go. Like, there have been a few comments about that the Force is this immense thing, is this very powerful thing. We just don't see it a lot because the initial trilogy, there are maybe 5 trained Force users in the galaxies
Right.
at the beginning.
Right.
And that's whittled down to 1 by the final.
Well, we don't see what it actually can do till really Force Awakens, when Kylo stops the bolt within the first 10 minutes.
Well, that's
of,
like people like complaining
of-
about
of the movies.
Like this is what bothers me. Like people complain about Leia using the Force for the first time, or Luke astral projecting, and like they've got a problem because we've never seen it before. But every movie except for maybe 2 and 3 introduced a new Force power that was never seen beforehand.
Right.
So like, why is it an issue now that a new movie introduces new ideas of the Force?
Right.
I understand the fear, because you can get to this point of, like, where does it cap off? Does it
Yeah.
cap off? Because otherwise you get, like, Dragon Ball Z, Super
Well,
Saiyan
yeah,
bullshit.
you can get too crazy with it.
Yeah.
Spirit bomb!
For sure, yeah.
Oh my god! It's
But actually, Dragon Ball Z might not be a bad comparison here, because we gotta look at the fact. So if you compare, and this was driven home to me by the Dragon Ball Z card game. The first one that came out, I remember picking up booster packs and decks, and characters had a power level slider on the side. With like the highest one being
9,000.
Actually, I believe it was right around 9,000 because it was supposed to be the Saiyan Saga.
So yeah, they're
I still have my holographic Vegeta. Anyways,
I have a holographic.
so then the next set comes out, and it's Namek, and the lowest power level I believe was about 9,000.
and you're like,
Every time a set came out, you had to get all new character cards, showing the big jump in power between the seasons. So that happens with Star Wars, because what you're looking at is Luke, who was trained by 2 powerful Jedi, Obi-Wan and Yoda, and he's got the mystical destiny Skywalker blood.
mighty Skywalker.
But then he's left on his own to develop his Force powers. No one else to train him, no one to tell him what to do. He is Master Luke by virtue of being the only one there. So he starts developing new techniques. Meanwhile, you have Snoke, the dark side's never given a shit about following rules.
And he's
So-
not a Sith either, so he doesn't follow Sith.
So
rules.
he's learning new things, and I believe that this led to them tapping into greater aspects of the light and dark.
Well, I have a Star Wars trivia question. Did Luke complete his training at the beginning of Return?
Return of the Jedi? Yes and no. This is another
Yeah.
thing. Everyone's like, this isn't the Luke I know. Luke's never been a traditional Jedi. He's not the last of the old. He's the first of the new.
Right. But is there a line
And
where
I don't think-
Yoda says to him, with your training complete? or
I think it's
something like
training
Yes.
complete in the sense that, like, you've learned stuff in a very unconventional way, but you've learned it.
Because he started old, but...
Here's a
You've learned enough that you're not going to die.
here's basically what we're looking at.
He
Okay.
force chokes those two guards, so he's clearly
Yeah,
not a Jedi.
yeah. By the way, people who say that Luke has never force choked somebody, fuck yourself. And by the way, I actually have to include Mark Hamill himself in that because he doesn't
Yeah, I
even
know, I
remember
saw
this.
that.
He chokes two of the pig guards. But okay.
But here's my fear. Speaking to your point, because we have in the one of the prequels where Qui-Gon, is it Qui-Gon or Obi-Wan that says something like, "The Jedi can't win this war for you." Now I go beyond
been so long
like
since I've
the
seen the
hearts and
prequels.
minds part of it.
Yeah.
Like if the Force is now this thing without limit, you actually can. Like you can make
couple
a fleet disappear that
But-
isn't really there, or a system. You can cloud the system.
Well, here's the thing.
You know,
Well,
this speaks to your point of no cap.
Well, I said that there is a fear of
Yeah.
that becoming a thing. At
Yeah.
the moment, they have put a kind of cap on it.
Yeah.
So with Snoke, he has physical disfigurement.
Yeah.
Like he's
The dark
his-
side does destroy you.
His
physically.
life force is like being drained out of him.
Right.
With Luke, he did that astral projection, and he
He died.
died.
Killed
Essentially,
him,
he
Yeah,
beat-
that was a lot.
Yeah.
Especially after
Yeah.
years of closing yourself off from the Force, and you come back and you do the most miraculous Force power yet. Like, that's gonna fucking weigh up.
Right.
Okay.
But with that, I think that because they've set up Rey and Kylo to be like super powerful Force users, like more so than anybody has ever seen, I think J.J. Abrams will put out this big flashy battle in the last one. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong.
no,
Yeah.
I feel that too. I feel like JJ is gonna do that. Not that that'll be bad or anything, but I'm just curious really to see what
They have.
he pulls with that.
What I'm trying to say is that they actually have put on limits to it, but it does give potential for like this new trilogy, or somewhere down the line in whatever series they bring up to make some like ultimate Phoenix Force user. or
Oh
whatever,
god,
you know,
yeah,
like-
yeah. Well, you'd have to. I mean, like we're talking 10 years down the line,
Yeah.
when it's like we've had 10 years of Star Wars movies. Like you're gonna have to break the chain and do something wildly different. Which is why, again, I like this.
Sorry,
movie.
anyone else here, Fleetwood Mac?
I know. That's
All right. So actually, though, a few
Yeah.
things back with what Ra said. Okay, one on the training. As we see in the prequels, Jedi training takes a long ass time, and they're supposed to be trained basically since from the time they can walk onwards. They even tell Anakin that he's too old to be trained when he's like 10 in the first movie. Luke's training is complete in an abbreviated sense. He was never given the full complete course that a normal Jedi would have under the Old Republic. He was given the wartime training of this is how you don't die. This is how you use the Force. Here are the morals that you're going to need. This is what to watch out for. Here's how to swing a lightsaber. But in the most abbreviated way.
Cliff Notes.
It was basically Cliff Notes trained because he's not going to be taught the Form 4 Vespid style of lightsaber fighting. He was taught, here's how you fucking don't die. Here are the basics of fighting. You're going to have to develop your own style from there. And I like to know in the old Star Wars CCG.
Hello,
Yeah.
my child.
Yeah. In the old Star Wars CCG put out by Decipher, God, I miss this card game. The highest Luke ever got as a Force user in the card game was in the Death Star 2 set, which was stealing stuff from Return of the Jedi as Jedi Knight. They never made a Jedi Master Luke. And I think that's very important. They worked very heavily. They had a lot of cool lore stuff in these old cards. And like they worked very closely with Lucas to make sure that everything was accurate and cool. But yeah, and as far as the whole, the Jedi can't win this war for you, it's a yes and no. Could the Jedi themselves have won the war? Probably. But the Jedi also have to look at themselves. The Jedi aren't military.
Right.
The Jedi might not have been able to win the war due to sheer numbers. Like, if they didn't have an army at their back.
Right.
I mean, the Jedi died to the clones turning on them.
Yeah, if they weren't blind
Right.
by their own...
Yeah,
Again, hubris.
but like a Jedi...
They were so proud of themselves.
A Jedi can be taken down by droids. A Jedi can be taken down by stormtroopers. They're not all powerful. And yes, we see very powerful things happen in the newer movies. But first off, you're going to get power creep in any series. Dragon Ball Z is a good example. Superman's probably one of the best examples. Superman's always been one of the most powerful superheroes. But if you compare what he was back when he was first created to what he is now...
When they had him... was his power that he just jumped and then he developed that he flew? Or did they just didn't think that he could fly? And then they were like, oh no, we've got to retcon this so he could fly.
He was just like a hero to
he
coal
couldn't
mine.
fly. He jumped. He leaped taller.
Right, and then somewhere down the line
it's
they were like,
breaking
well,
up,
let's just make him fly.
Yeah.
strikes
Okay.
and stuff.
He was able to leap tall buildings in
weird.
single
Look at
bound, and then he could fly.
Okay.
Because some later writer, or it may have even been
Like it takes on the Pinkertons. or
Schuster
something?
and
Yeah.
Wow.
I just had a question. Anyway.
But yeah,
Well, he's been evolving powers the longest he's been on Earth.
right.
So-
But that wasn't something that was required by his creation.
Right.
It was something that happened because of how long he's been there. Because this also speaks to the thing, if the only things we ever see a Jedi do are choke, push, lightning, that's it. Then people are going to get bored. We're going to have people going, show me something original, show me something new, which people already were. The problem is, as always, people go, show me something new, show me something original.
Here's a Jedi
here you
running
go.
fast and jumping really high. I don't like it.
Yeah, which people did in the prequels.
Yeah.
We saw the Jedi do amazing physical feats in the prequels and in the comics and books and all that.
And if you want to even include Rogue One, I mean,
Yeah.
sure, it's using the Force in completely different ways than
Oh,
we've
yeah.
seen him use the Force. And then with Episode 7, Kylo's like stasis field thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they've been introducing newer and like grander Force powers almost with every movie.
And it's just to keep the audience from getting bored with the same old.
Right.
And it's just like how everybody complained about, well, couldn't you have given me new starfighters? I've seen X-Wings and TIE fighters before. Well, okay, but so we're suddenly when there's no real war going on, it's just a resistance. They're supposed to get entire new classes of starfighters.
Yeah, right.
And I mean, from a visual standpoint, it's hard. It would be hard to make something new.
Well, no, that's the thing. It's like
that was
from a movie making standpoint, yeah, they could have given us new, and there were ways to justify it in the lore.
You still want the iconography of the series, but you also don't want people to get bored with the look.
Right.
Yeah, but that's the thing, because that was my complaint for Force Awakens.
Right.
That we literally decades have passed, and there's still the same stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, even in our normal world, there's a new fucking car every year.
Yeah.
And sure, the design tweaks here
Which
and
is-
there, but come on.
Is there a new class of fighter jet every year though?
Well, that gets into
No.
our broken military stuff.
Well, okay, yeah, there's that too.
But
And it's like, what are they going to upgrade to?
well, yeah, right. Like,
Well-
they still have that. Those are their fighter planes, so they'll look like X-wing.
But well, I mean, the thing is, actually, technically, what they should have done is we should no longer see any X or Y wings. We should be seeing A wings and B wings because the A wing was developed as the replacement for the X wing, and the B wing was developed as the replacement for the Y wing.
Right. Yeah, the bombers.
But the point is, just like with force powers, people complain because hey, it's been all this time. Here's the same fighters that you're used to. If it's hey, here's all this time, a Jedi has never been a powerful from Qui-Gon Jinn to Luke Skywalker. Like there we go. There's our cap. It's like okay, that's it. That's all a Jedi can do. What are you giving me that's new?
Right.
Well, this is why I love Luke's arc in this, is that he's breaking the cycle by choosing not to fight, because he continuously fights, and what has that gotten us? That's gotten the Old Order with the Jedi and the Senate and the Separatists fighting. And then it became the Rebels and the Empire. And now it's started again, and we've got the First Order and the Resistance. So continuously fighting and doing this is not working because it's cyclical. It's just causing the same things to constantly break or constantly come up.
And now the circle is complete.
Right. And by him doing what he does in this movie, he's choosing to end that. To hopefully stop that from reoccurring and another Empire or First Order coming up. And now something newer and hopefully better can rise from that.
You know what did that for me on the second watching after I knew what the fuck was going to happen? When Kylo smashes the mask.
Yeah.
That's what did it for me. That's when I knew it's like, okay, this is what we're trying to do.
Kill it if you have to.
You know, and then it all came together for me at that point.
So,
because
even though Kylo's sort of wrong in that, you don't want to kill the past. You want what Luke does and what Rey teaches him.
Right.
Is you embrace it, you cherish it, but you move on from it.
Right.
And you learn from it, and you become better from it.
Right.
You don't
he
kill
doesn't
it.
learn the lesson, but that's what I'm saying is like.
No,
we're
I know
shedding all that
Kylo
stuff.
doesn't learn the lesson because
Yeah.
even though he's telling everybody to let go, he can't himself. I mean,
Right.
the symbology, they're literally dragging
did you
Death
say
Star.
symbology?
Or the symbolism in this movie, they're literally dragging Death Star tech behind them as they go.
Sorry, I just
Yeah.
heard Boondock Saints in my head.
I know, I just did the same
And I
thing.
think it was the
Love this.
run up to that point too, where he tells him to take off that silly mask and that you're just
Yeah.
a boy.
Yeah.
Which essentially what Anakin was.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
Kylo's
Right up until when
Anakin
he
done
died.
right. Kylo's what
So-
Anakin should have been. This bubble of confliction,
Yeah.
and relatable too.
I do hope I don't have high expectations for it, but I do hope that Kylo finds a different purpose.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Oh,
I
yeah.
wonder where he goes.
Yeah,
now.
because like why in the world should he give a shit about the Empire?
Yeah,
Like he's thrown
He
away his
doesn't.
ties to the past.
he wants to get rid of it all. Sith,
Well-
Jedi, the Order.
Well, yeah, but now Kylo's in charge of it.
Yeah, which will be very interesting
That's
to see
seductive.
what he does
It
with it.
is now there to serve his purposes, so will it continue serving the original?
Right. What is his purpose? Though? Is he just going to try and kill Rey?
Well, that actually, I think it's more of he wants Rey.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't want to kill her.
No.
He
I
wants
want-
her by
I
his
want-
side as a queen.
I want him to say, I love you, and then she goes, I know. And then just fucking, like, kicks his ass.
That actually that would be a good call.
I love
And so while we're at, like no that would be a great moment. I would
Yeah.
fucking love that. While we're still on this, like the First Order and same old versus.
He ends up in her head. Says, can't you put a tunic on or something?
I'll defend that scene, too.
Yeah.
Shirtless Kylo.
But I actually had somebody point out something to me. Well, not me. I saw something online that pointed out something that what I hadn't thought of, but the more I think about it, this is very true. That when Force Awakens came out and we saw the First Order, everyone immediately jumped on me too. On they're Nazis. You have the big Hitler-style rally on Starkiller Base.
No, they're neo-Nazis.
They're neo-Nazis.
Yeah.
They're not coded as Nazis. They're coded as neo-Nazis, which actually explains a lot of the shit that goes on in Force Awakens. And now I know it can be said that this is a hand wave or that this is yada yada yada, but the idea that they're neo-Nazis. They're upset. They saw the atrocities of the Empire and went, we want to do that. So, of course, the first thing they're going to do is build a bigger and better Death Star.
Right.
Of course, they're going to take TIE fighters and paint them edgy black and actually update them a bit.
They had slight different looks.
The First Order TIE fighters, you can see some differences in the technology and all that.
Yeah.
And here's our Star Destroyer because we want to be the Empire. We want to be, and
It's the shit we're going through right now.
and it's also
America.
why Kylo Ren is this whiny loser fanboy who's annoyed that he's not as good as everyone.
Well, that's why I loved that whole battle between him and Rey. Like, it's this whole privilege versus actually striving for yourself. Like, that's why I like that she kind of owns that battle. And she really doesn't, if you watch it. I mean, she ends up putting him on the edge towards the end of that. But, I mean, like, she's struggled for 20 years of her life. And
Yeah.
he's he's been around for almost 30 years, and he's basically been given everything, or he feels like he's owed everything.
Well, also, in The Last Jedi, look at the way Hux acts. Mm-hmm. Now, in Force Awakens, my impression of Hux was and now this is all, granted, they're neo-Nazis, okay? I'm going to put that big umbrella here. Mm-hmm. But is that he's a good officer who's there to make sure his job gets done, and he enforces what, he's the officer that's going to get shit done. And yeah, he's got his little rivalry with Kylo Ren, but in Last Jedi, we start to see Hux take on a whole new...
He's kind of a buffoon.
But
a great propagandist and an orator,
yeah.
which is very important to an order like the First Order.
That's the thing. He's not a military genius, but he is aware enough of what's going on. Like, he tries to temper Kylo Ren towards the end when you have the whole Luke scene. I want everyone to fire on him,
Do you think you got him?
Do you think you got him? Like, don't, pull it back. Don't commit everything to, what do you mean land you? What do you mean let you out? You're our leader.
It'd be interesting to see that going forward, how that develops.
You going to say something, Stu?
Oh, I was going to say about... we moved past another.
You sure?
Yeah, I was thinking about... you were talking about privilege versus not having it.
Yeah.
And that was leading me into Rey's past.
Oh, yeah. Well,
there we go.
Might as well
there we go.
That because
I fucking love the reveal.
Yeah. What are you thinking, Eric?
I thought it was great. I
Yeah.
thought it was another subversion that we weren't expecting.
Yeah.
Like you were expecting her to be born to some...
I mean, because that's been the Star Wars legacy.
Well, yeah.
You're born into it. It's
Well,
destiny.
look
She
at-
started with destiny.
Anakin Skywalker, who actually in a Jesus allegory moment was born of the dark side impregnated Shmi.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. He's
Yeah,
like
it
some
got-
sort of
it
dark
got
side
weird.
homunculus.
Yeah.
Then you have Luke and Leia, one of them a literal fucking princess.
Yeah.
Who were both born with this destined blood of the Skywalker legacy.
Yeah.
And then you have Kylo, born of the same blood, born of the heroes of the rebellion. All that.
But born in a time where he'd never have to strive for it like they sort of did.
And so you have the heroes and Kylo are of these like noble births or of these noble backgrounds.
Yeah.
The big heroes. Like Han is a hero, but let's be honest, he's kind of Luke's sidekick.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. He's Luke's pilot.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And that's not to belittle him, but he's the short round to Luke's Indiana Jones. Mm-hmm. And yes, I did that very specifically.
Yeah.
And Harrison Ford, we still like you. Don't worry. And then you have Rey, who comes from nothing.
Yeah.
You have Rose, who's from a working class background.
That's the whole point of Canto Bight and the ending shot of this movie is that, and Luke reinforces that with, it doesn't belong to the Jedi, and to think that it does is vain. Like, anybody can become a hero. Anybody could rise up and do good things.
Rise up!
Oh, boy!
Here comes the General Skywalker!
Oh, you're doing the Hamilton thing.
Yeah, Hamilton.
But yeah, no, I love it for that exact reason too. It breaks that whole like you have to be born into it to be good at anything.
Yeah.
Like that's such a bullshit message to send to, especially this generation of Star Wars fans. Like you have to be privileged and born into it to do anything good in life. Fuck that.
Like,
noise.
here's the thing: I'm not going to knock it in the old ones, especially in the original trilogy, because
that's part of the operatic mythology.
Well, yeah, it's supposed to be
storytelling,
operatic and mythological, and I absolutely love Greek mythology.
Mm-hmm.
I love reading stories, Norse mythology, but a big thing with Greek mythology is all the heroes were destined and so they're demigods, or they're kings, they're queens, they're princes.
Right.
And so for Star Wars in its original form, that was great.
Yeah.
But it's a new generation.
Yeah, you need to get rid of that sentimentality because it's strangling the franchise. You can't keep doing the same stuff because you can't keep putting Star Wars in a 1977 box. You're never going to make it become bigger and better and and hopefully more relatable to people. And actually, for the first time, like Star Wars has always had some sort of low-key wisdom and low-key commentary, but for the first time, this movie has like things to actually say. There's genuine themes that pay off and that matter to people in this day and age. Like
there's more than just the general wisdom. Like you said, it's always been there. The do or do not. There is no try. Like there's always been the general fortune cookie life lesson. Wisdom.
Right.
This is the first one that has political things.
Political things and spirituality. Like it pulls so hard into the Taoist mentality, and I love that.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I thought Luke was going to push harder on, this whole balance notion, but he kind of didn't. But he kind of did. Like it's still infused in Rey that she obviously can't do. She can't be trained like a Jedi, and the way the Jedi's were working, it's got to go. Obviously, so she did learn that there's this balance that needs to take place. Well, I mean, that whole relationship with her and Kylo kind of made it so. I mean, there's no redemptive arc for Kylo. He's full force now, and the whole symbolism of her closing that door on him at the end was shutting off that connection between her and him. And she's making a choice that says, "I'm not going that route. I'm going this other route."
I'd almost still say that there's still something in Kylo, and that they're both kind of the same. Because
no, I think Kylo's
he
still
didn't whack his mom.
No, I don't think. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's not conflicted anymore.
Yeah.
He is still 100% conflicted, and it has split him to the bone.
Yeah.
But there is no arc for him that goes to the light side.
No.
Like he is dark side.
Yeah, he's
but
going to be the final enemy.
He's got it. And the only way for this to end is for Kylo to die. To officially kill off the last remaining Skywalker and end this saga.
No.
That way they can go forward. Now you can go anywhere.
No way that he can do something good
Yeah.
but pay for being bad.
This is what we were talking about earlier. Bad people can still do good things.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean they're redeemed. Like 3 Billboards, that movie that just came out. There's a cop who's super racist. And at the end, he does a good deed. And a lot of people are split because they think that redeems him, and the movie is talking about redeeming racists. That's not what it's talking about. It's showing that hurt people can hurt people. But that doesn't mean that they can't learn and do something good. But again, it doesn't redeem them.
And I got another Star Wars question for you guys. So did Vader's killing the Emperor, was that a redemptive thing for him?
Well, that was a little different, I think, than what Kylo's in. Because, I mean, again, you had that whole prophecy of bringing balance to the Force. So in some way, that was...
I've also heard people try and say that Luke was supposed to be the chosen one.
No, it's
So
Anakin.
it's
Anakin
Anakin.
ends it. The Sith and the Jedi necessarily, for all intents and purposes, end once Anakin fucking kills the Emperor.
Well,
So-
also in its original, like not counting the prequels, we hear that Vader did bad shit, but aside from possibly Alderaan, which was really Tarkin,
You need to kill all those kids.
no, but here's the thing: without the prequels, he didn't.
Well, that's true, too. If you,
all right, pre-prequels, because we're talking 15 years between these movies here. Okay, so in its original, that was supposed to be redemptive. Then the prequels came out, and it's kind of like, how can you redeem this guy who murdered a bunch of children?
But again, I say that...
I don't agree with him having a Force Ghost, by the way, because I think that kind of solidifies that he's been redeemed.
But I also think that the movies present him as this figure that is really, really bad.
Yeah,
they
do.
show you,
No,
but the way other characters interact
Again, I don't
with
think,
him.
I don't think he's redeemed at the end
Yeah.
of that. I just
You don't think he's redeemed?
I
Okay.
don't see him as being necessarily redeemed.
Yeah.
I just see him closing a loop.
Okay.
He's choosing to end the cycle.
I think the
Because I can
the
get behind
plan
that for Kylo.
I think the plan was to redeem him.
Yeah, I think that's the
Like
intent.
they tell, because there's a lot of they're telling you he's bad without showing you he's bad.
Yeah,
Like-
I think that's the intent is that he's redeemed.
But I
But
think
And
what
again-
breaks
and
it
again-
is the Force Ghost.
And again,
I know.
well, again without the prequels,
yeah.
the Force Ghost to me makes sense because, and that the Force Ghost is why, because at the end of Return of the Jedi, again, or I'm throwing the prequels out for a 2nd. At the end of Return of the Jedi, he shows up as a Force Ghost, and the whole point was Luke saying, "I know there is still light in you."
Yeah.
That was what happened. Was Vader himself is irredeemable. Anakin Skywalker is not.
Okay.
And
I see where you're
there's a
going.
division line between the two.
Even though Vader says himself that Anakin is dead and gone.
But that's the thing. Because Anakin wasn't really dead.
Yeah.
Because Anakin was still in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yes, they are technically the same physical person, but one has been warped by the dark side. The other is the light living within him.
I'm gonna fuck it up. Is Ben Solo still in Kylo?
That's the question.
We do get hints of that because he doesn't kill his mom.
Ray thinks so.
Ray thinks so. Thinks so.
It's not going to go the way you think.
And there was a hesitation on where he decides not to shoot the bridge where Leia is.
Yeah.
But that was also at the beginning of the movie.
Uh-huh.
I also think
by the time Snoke dies, by the time he has taken over the First Order, him solidifying himself on the dark side and trying to get Rey to go with him may have been that last moment of him throwing out. Because doesn't Rey even say something like, "I used to believe you could be redeemed" or something?
Yeah, don't do this.
She does say that.
Well, it's the subtext there is he's throwing everything out and he's telling Rey, like, you mean something to me and we can be something better. So please show me that I mean something to you. And when she doesn't reciprocate, I think that's pushing him over even more.
Oh, okay.
And now he's about to kill a third fucking father figure in his lifetime with Luke, which is actually why I kind of like that he doesn't kill Luke.
Yeah.
I don't want Ben Solo to have yet again a third black mark on his soul. Like, it's enough as it is.
That's the thing. It's the real question hanging over is whether or not Ben Solo is in there somewhere. Is Ben Solo still alive inside Kylo Ren?
Which was why we got so stripped down. He lost his helmet, he lost his
shirt,
his robe stuff is all gone.
So they made a point of actually showing that he's in there.
Yeah, that was a thing of like stripping this character down to say like there's more to him than just he's not this cyborg monster that Darth Vader was, but he's still somewhat of a fucking creature because
they've shown him do very, very terrible things.
They tried to give the villain a love interest.
Well, and he's not.
Straight up, like they're trying to show him as human.
Well, and that's he wasn't created like Vader was.
No,
he's not. He's
a wannabe.
Completely. Well, and if you even
the Rashomon section.
Yeah, the Rashomon part where you've got these three different flashbacks that are the same thing from different perspectives, but it's the way he was created allowed Kylo to still have kind of a heart and soul. He's not like Vader where he's been twisted and deformed and
he's more machine than man
seething with the Sith intent. Like he
was going down the dark road.
He's this broken boy who just witnessed his fucking uncle almost kill him. Like
that's actually kind of cool because they do a physical transformation in Revenge of the Sith, where it's like his eyes go red.
Yeah.
So it's like it's almost that guy is gone.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Well, and that's the thing.
So,
but you also know he's still kind of there because what's the first thing he does after he shows up as Vader? No, right before that.
God damn it! God,
what is
damn
it? What do
I laugh.
No, I know. It's terrible. But I also heard an interesting defense of why it sounds so terrible. Vader's vocalizers wouldn't be.
I'm sure there's a defense, but it was just not good.
Yes, I know it's not good, but I found a way where I'm like, okay, it makes sense at least, which allows me to watch the movie when I feel like it. Anyways, the very first question Anakin asks when he's Darth Vader, very first words out of his mouth after going through an incredibly painful surgery, wakes up, he's missing most of his arms, most of his body.
Yeah.
He just fought his best friend and mentor and was chopped up by him and lit on fire. What's the very first words out of his mouth?
Where my tail at?
Where?
I mean, essentially.
But yeah. Where is Padme? What happened to Padme? And I think that's the moment right there when Palpatine says, she's dead. You killed her.
You killed her.
And as terrible as the scene is,
thank you.
The scripting itself wasn't as bad. Okay, in that specific scene, because oh my god, the idea
Joe,
of
it was
her
a bad scene.
the idea of her dying due to a broken heart. Oh my fucking god! Seriously.
So
Anyway,
we want to put a pin in this in terms of like coming
yeah.
back from.
maybe we'll do a part 2.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. There's so much to talk about this movie. Did you guys want to touch on Canto Bight real quick? Did you like it? Did you not like it?
Real quick, and then we'll do it. We'll do it in the next one, a full on.
Yeah.
So liked it.
I liked it.
Thought it was interesting, but it didn't quite fit with the rest of the movie. In a
Okay.
couple ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is Cantabite?
That was the
The
casino,
Oh, the casino.
with Rose and Finn.
Just a quick liked it, didn't like it.
Because that's a whole episode in and of itself.
I would have liked that if it was in a different movie. Like if they had separated
Wait,
Finn's journey.
we'll go
out.
into it deeper in the next one.
Anyway,
Liked it or didn't like it, or not sure.
Not sure because I saw it twice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't like it the first time. Liked it better the second time, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll discuss that one next
Yeah, we'll
time.
have to discuss that one next because I think that is the most important scene of the whole movie. Because that not only reinforces the themes of the movie, but what Star Wars is truly about. But that's a show for another time. Did you guys want to give your last thoughts on Last Jedi?
favorite scene?
We're not done with it, but favorite scene? Wow, shit, there's a lot to pick from. I'm gonna go with one that actually I forgot was in the movie because the rest of the movie was so good, and this was right at the beginning, and then I was reminded of it. Poe in his X-Wing trolling the shit out of Hux.
Yeah.
Out of General Hugs.
General Hugs.
As soon as somebody reminded me of it, I actually laughed for about 5 minutes as I
Yeah.
recalled that entire scene.
So good. Well, and people that hate that scene, it's like, do you guys not remember the Han Solo scene when he
Boring-
did the same thing, basically?
Boring conversation anyway.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, I just wanted to say that not everyone's going to be all in on these changes that this movie made, but
No one ever is.
I think this was the Star Wars movie that I was desperately needing, and I think Star Wars desperately needed.
Wars movie we needed, not the one we deserve.
I used that phrasing on purpose.
Actually, no, we deserve this one.
I love that it takes characters and elements of the franchise in new ways, and I love that it shows how childhood trauma can affect adult survivors and how it affects how they live their lives or how it could bond them. I love how this movie about our failures and fuck ups and how we have to live with those and how we have to use those. I love that it's a movie about a universe of women turning a universe of boys into men, and that it's ultimately, well, it's hard, but ultimately necessary to move on from the past. I just, the more I think about this movie, the more I love
I want to touch on the female characters next time, too.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we got to talk about them.
Like, there's still stuff that upsets me. Like,
Holdo!
Phasma did die like a bitch.
Yeah.
And the whole, like, space chase, I'm still a little iffy on. If
Space
it's
chase?
Well, the whole, like, chase through space with the First Order chasing the Resistance.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a holding action.
I don't mind it, but it just feels like, I don't know, it's just kind of a weak story structure. Like, it still works for me, but I don't know, I still am iffy on that one.
That one I definitely want to talk about more because I
Yeah.
got some counters to that.
My favorite scene was Holdo driving.
Hero the Holdo?
Oh,
or
my
Holdo
God.
the Hero?
And
Yeah,
that
oh
shot,
my god.
Oh,
my god,
so-
it's
what is that?
beautiful.
Holdo
When
the
she jumps
Hero.
to light speed. When she jumps to light speed.
Oh,
With,
okay, got it.
with
Yeah.
the home one. I keep forgetting that's legit the home one.
Abstract art in Star Wars.
The ship that ferried them to the second Death Star. I also keep forgetting that was Admiral.
I just like that
Oh, yeah,
reading
Akbar's
afterwards, people were freaking out about the silence in the theater, but I just thought it was perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even
Yeah.
register it as silence, I just registered it as
Well,
what
my
it
jaw
needed,
was on
you
the
know?
floor.
It's
so-
like the
it's
entire
fucking
movie
great.
took a like gasped at what she was
Yeah.
doing.
Well, there was one kid in my screening when it went silent. He was like, "Whoa!" And I was like, "That made
Yeah, that's
it for
great.
me."
I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah.
I was in a
Yeah.
like that. That was basically like a hyperventilating laugh. Like, oh god, did that happen?
But I'm sorry. Favorite scene?
Yeah.
One scene solidified this whole movie for me. He went from whiny farm boy to galactic boss with one hand motion. The brush off. Luke
yeah.
Skywalker gets back up from the explosions, and they're just staring at him, and he just brushes off his shoulder like, mwah,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say milking the.
No, I do love. That's my second favorite scene.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rah rah, your favorite scene.
It's like I've talked to this about you guys before. I think this movie has a lot of great scenes.
Yeah.
And I like the light speed one. I like the one where he smashes the Kylo helm.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think for me and the way I like to watch movies, I think if I had to pick one, I like where he screams more, and they keep pouring on the blasts.
Yeah.
Like that's
It crunches
like,
his
I think
hand.
he actually has spit coming out of his mouth.
Yeah.
Adam Driver's knocking it out of the park.
Oh my god, Adam Driver is
I think just for
Adam
raw
Driver is the
emotion.
best villain.
Yeah,
Like,
oh god,
I
he's
love
so
him as an
good.
actor.
The pathos that he's able to admit
Yeah.
is just so good.
Because we've seen him like go all like tantrum shit.
Yeah.
But that one seemed like it was just raw like hate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Raw!
I think I liked that scene.
100% raw!
People are just like looking at him.
Yeah. Yeah, the one guy like turned around. You gonna be alright back there? That's right.
I also love how they also kind of look at Hux, and Hux is like, do it or he kills us all.
Yeah, right. Oh gosh.
Do you think you got him?
Living with the bomb.
Yeah.
One last thing on symbolism. I do also love that they end this movie on a salt mineral planet, because it's just going to show you that hope can be mined even from scorched, salted earth.
Oh, I thought they were acknowledging how salty people are going to be.
Well, that too. The one guy who tasted it, his name is like Commander Salty or something.
By the
like
way,
that.
2 days after I saw the movie, so we're talking like 5 days after the movie came out.
Yeah.
I saw a little rant about like, oh, The Last Jedi was terrible, blah 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 blah. The first freaking post was a GIF of the guy tasting the salt and going, salt.
Salt. Yeah.
But isn't that fucking dumb? Because aren't a lot of salts poisonous?
Yeah.
I mean,
if you don't know what the fuck it is.
Yeah,
stupid.
yeah. If you
Yeah.
ingesting
It's
it.
like, whatever.
Listen,
Whatever, yeah.
Listen,
We gotta end on that.
they're drinking unpasteurized alien milk, so I think it's okay.
Well, thanks for listening to part one, I guess, our Last Jedi
The second to Last Jedi podcast.
commentary here.
Right.
We'll probably put up another one here pretty soon. That may be on a different platform, so keep an eye out again on
Yeah.
Facebook for that. I'd like to thank Podbean for what they've done for us for the last
Yeah, you guys
2
have been
years on
great.
that.
Yeah.
We
And the
just
Nerd
haven't
Podcast
strenuous-
Mafia
Yeah.
for what they've
Podern
done for us,
Family.
and Podern Family. And hopefully we'll catch up with you guys on another setup someplace
Yeah.
else.
Thanks for listening. Until next time, I'm Sam.
Rah-rah.
Wave.
Mystery.
Pork, 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 pork.
Barbecue up that
Pork.
porg.